How you guys doing? Welcome to Phie.Love Intuitive Conversations. I hope you guys are good. Yeah. If you like my content, please do like, share, and subscribe. And yeah, if there's any negativity, if there's any hate, please do keep that on your side of the street, okay? It won't be acknowledged. So, family, in this video, I'm being guided by Spirit to briefly talk about us re-establishing our reference point, right? For why we do what we do, why we think the way we think, why we respond, react, reason, and decide the way we decide, reason, respond, act, and think, right? If you take some time to just spend a little bit of time with yourself, everybody always talks about this. It's a mainstream word, right? Healing. But like I've said before, people say healing, but for someone who isn't really too self-aware or clued up on how to go within and deal with themselves, the word healing, like I've said before, doesn't really give a it doesn't give a practical it's not very practical, and it doesn't really bring any kind of understanding about what the process or what the experience of healing is supposed to be like, right? Let alone someone who isn't able to, or someone who maybe isn't fully self-aware, having to acquaint themselves with themselves, and you tell them go heal, and it's like, what do you mean go heal? Fuck do you mean go heal? I mean, so Spirit maybe wants you to take the approach of going within and thinking about when you go back, right? Thinking about what is your reference point. When you're unaware, you go through things, you get hurt, you become injured, your external environment in certain different ways, shapes, and forms on different levels becomes a threat to you, right? And you go through these moments and these experiences where your emotion spikes, and you suddenly have an event that is lodged into your memory, lodged into the background, right? Unintegrated. An emotion, a memory, a thought, whatever it is that might have created an emotional spike, creating a moment or an experience or whatever it is of hurt, shock, pain, whatever it is that that you grab onto and starts hanging within your system and within the background of your perspective and your interpretation of the outside world as a reference point, right? You don't even realize that you're operating from various levels and magnitudes of different reference points from certain events and things that have happened to you in your life, right? Becoming aware of this is already you doing what the world likes to say, engaging in the action of healing, right? So Spirit would like you to become acquainted with yourself. Don't think that you're not like everyone else out there. Don't ever think that you don't have anything to work out. You always have something to work out. So what you need to do is go within and take some time, journal, take a few pieces of paper, and try and figure out, let whatever comes to the fore of your mind, try and figure out in your past, where did you go through events or have things happen to you? What memories do you have and hold within yourself of events that triggered high emotion, right? events that triggered pain, events that made you feel threatened, events that put you through an experience of betrayal with somebody. Where have those things become your reference point for why you think and do and reason and react and move the way you move in your life? Spirit would like you to ascend your reference point, to go back, right, and start putting a new perspective to it. Because when you start dealing with those things, when you take the time to, look at them and deal with them and change the perspective, maybe learn the lesson, figure out how you're going to integrate the emotion, integrate the event, and not make it about you being its victim or whoever else, might have been the catalyst on the outside to it happening, or whoever you've placed the focus and the blame, the way you're programmed to have to always blame something or someone on the outside for, whatever it is you might be have happening to you on the inside, right? You go back and you put the higher perspective to it. Try now to figure out, what could the lesson have been? Where can I release the way I interpreted the experience in the past and revisit it and figure out what maybe it could have been now that I'm actually, not in a place of high emotion, now that I'm maybe more mature and I have a higher perspective, right? Maybe now that I'm in a place where I can look at it and not be afraid, not feel pain. That's when you know you've worked something out, when you can address it, whether it's within you or confront something or someone on the outside of you that might have created that imbalance or a trauma or whatever it is that might have injured you or spiked an emotion, spiked a feelings, created some sort of shock that you didn't integrate properly, right? The moment you can confront those things, look at those things, engage, interact, or be in the same vicinity with whoever, whatever it is, on the outside or even on the inside of you, without going through any emotion, without having any kind of small or extravagant reaction to it, then you know that you've overcome it. You know that you've moved into a place where it's starting to dissolve. And over time, it may even leave your energetic space and your memory completely. It won't be a reference point anymore. Things you've associated to it in your environment or within your internal world unconsciously won't be a trigger point of reaction out of you. But what you have to do is you have to try and integrate it, try and learn the lesson, try and see where maybe you can take accountability, where is hanging in the perspective of it being somebody else's fault, it may be holding you captive in a space of being a victim, in a space of reliving pain or negative ideas and memories over and over again that you might find when you go back and look at it. The way you've kind of shaped it within yourself to kind of protect yourself and, not have it be so, not having it be so, have such a strong effect or affect, within you when you engage it. How can you change? How can you change the perspective around that? How can you change the wrapping that you've given a situation? Maybe somebody cheated on you in the past and it came as a shock. the event was something that you were not able to integrate. So you developed all kinds of defense mechanisms and cushions within your mind and your perspective, and just things, that you feel would be uh, contingency plans should something of that sort happen again, or you find yourself moving into that kind of a space again, right? Those kinds of events, especially when you don't expect them and when they really injure you, and they're born also out of places from neglect, right? Someone's neglected you, your emotions, your feelings. Someone didn't think about you, right? Someone injured you. Where can you go back and look at the situation and think about how it actually, and I say it all the time, how the situation can actually enlighten you and work to your benefit as you move forward. Where were you in your situation, in your state of being back then, right? Where were you? Were you unaware? Were there oversight issues? Were you not paying attention to the situation you allowed yourself to get into in its entirety? Excuse me. Right? Did someone cheat on you who maybe now you look back at it and you can be like, I was unaware back then. All the signs were there. My point of learning here is to realize that back then I didn't pay attention to my partner, or to my girlfriend or my boyfriend or my wife or my husband's lifestyle when I first got together with them. I wasn't aware enough to take seriously the imbalances that they had within themselves. I wasn't aware enough to spend time with them, to actually get to know them and recognize and put myself into a position where I'm enlightened enough to decide consciously if I'm willing to live with and put up with their cycles that maybe they are not aware of and haven't taken the time to work out yet. I wasn't paying attention to the types of people they had around themselves in the beginning, to the environments. I wasn't really paying attention to the environment that I found somebody in when I met them the first time, or when I brought them into my life, the headspace that I was in and that they were in. Try and figure out where you can also take accountability. It doesn't mean the person didn't do something wrong, right? It doesn't mean the person didn't violate you, your energy, or your boundaries, or your trust, or your loyalty, or whatever it is. But it helps you also release the situation when you can also put a higher perspective and recognize where you might have been deficient, where you might have, not been ready or equipped yourself enough to be or deal with the situation, where you maybe missed the release point because you were caught up in programming, because you were operating out of lack, because you were making decisions off of the thrill of the feelings and emotions of the beginning of a relationship with somebody, because you were giving in and falling for gaslighting, because you were so caught up in wanting to reach some sort of societal milestone that, you overlooked everything else. Where's your learning point in the things that you go through? And go through this with your parents as well. Be compassionate. I've said it as well in the past. Be compassionate with yourself for being a child who didn't know better, and who had to withstand and absorb and had to live through the decisions and lack of awareness that your own parents went through, and it affected you negatively. Having to, be the stress ball for the imbalances that your own parents went through, be it lashing out, violence, neglect, whatever it is. Go back and put a higher perspective to it and give yourself some compassion. When you do this, you raise your reference point. Your reference point is no longer the pain. It's no longer trying to protect yourself from getting hurt. It's no longer trying to find the pattern in every single person out there that could put, that every single person out there could possibly possess, that might injure you in some sort of way, right? Raise your reference point and allow your healing and your new perspective and the things that you learn from going back and revisiting some of the things in the past that might have created imbalances within you, that are unconscious points of pain and aggravation within you, trigger points, things that trigger you when you engage something similar in your external world in someone else. You might not even realize that you're reacting a certain way to somebody or something or someone's behavior or whatever it might be, because of something that's unintegrated and influencing you in the background from your past, that maybe might not even be the fault or really what the situation is on the outside that you find yourself in, but you're still perceiving your world with the old lenses, with the lens of your pain, with the lens of the memories that you hold within yourself, with the lens of trying to protect yourself. You raise the reference point, and some of these things start dissolving. Some of these things, when you confront certain things and people and situations in your environment, you respond. You don't react, right? You interpret them differently, and over time, as you change your reference point, this also starts changing the energy that you exist in. It changes your energy. It expands your soul and the consciousness that you possess and exist in, right? It changes your conscious experience, how you actually experience your environment on the outside. It changes your quality of life. It changes what you're open to and what and how you deal with certain things from a more mature and higher perspective. You'll find yourself being more grounded in situations where in the past you were maybe a little ungrounded and, like I said, reactive and maybe emotional. Some things might not even bother you anymore because you've integrated, you've worked it out, you've learned the lesson, and it can just, leave your energy space now. It doesn't have to be a trigger point within you anymore. Women tend to have an easier time doing this kind of stuff, but more and more, men are becoming open to also going within and having compassion for themselves and understanding that they also deserve to be in a place of balance. They deserve to not have to always live out of life from this hardened place. from an old paradigm and mindset that has trained them to have to tough everything out and to not connect with themselves. And then the external world expects them to have compassion for them, but they're trained to not actually genuinely have also compassion for themselves, right? You can't give the outside world what you're not giving to yourself. And some people generally are just programmed into really putting a facade out that that's what they're doing. But because it's not their being, maintaining it becomes difficult and draining and tiresome, and then, consistency becomes an issue, right? So, yeah, let's try and just ascend our reference point. Allow yourself to grow out of all the things that might be, framing your perspective. You might think are reasonable, you might think are right, because maybe to some degree you believe they protect you, but really maybe they're limiting you. They're making your world smaller. And they're also just affecting your perspective and affecting probably also the way that you understand and connect with other things and people, right? So that's one aspect to what they mean when they say, go heal yourself, go heal. Okay. Most of all, it's giving yourself some attention that you need, giving yourself the compassion and the care that maybe, it's almost like reparenting yourself. Reparenting yourself the way that your own parents in the past they weren't equipped. They all built their lives off of what the external system world had told them is how their lives are supposed to be built and put together and interpreted and whatever it might be. And I think now we're in a time where we're really, we're fortunate to be in a time where we can start dealing with all those things a little differently and allowing one another the space to deal with those things and be in those places and have compassion and understanding, and know that there is understanding and compassion from others for you yourself to be in those places. We're in a place where people can actually be open and respectful and allow you to go through the process that you need to go through and not, ridicule you for it. You don't have to feel shame for being in the places today that in the past many felt shameful, many hid away, right? So I'm gonna leave it there, family. I hope it's resonated. I hope it's given you a little bit of courage, and I hope that you take the time with yourself and not be stressed about time when you're doing it. Take the time with yourself and go within and look back, look within. Ask yourself, where am I hurting? Ask yourself, where have I been hurt? Where are there memories that trigger me? What have people done to me in the past that have put me into certain places, mindsets, experiences, and emotions that I haven't maybe integrated properly, that I just got stuck on the moment in the emotion and I waited for things to calm down within me and I went on with my life. I didn't actually take the time with it. I didn't question it. I didn't take the time to recognize what the situation might have been trying to show me about myself, right? So, yeah, I'm gonna leave it there. Let me see, I'll pull a card today from the Ascendant Master's deck, okay, by Doreen Virtue. Sorry that the dogs are making a noise. And let's see what Spirit has to support our conversation, or to give somebody who's watching our video a nudge in a specific direction, okay? Let's see. Can I please have one card, Spirit? Thank you. Stay focused. Okay. So when you start going within, stay focused, and don't just do it one time. Make it a habit to continue going within and checking in with yourself. Allow yourself to become focused on yourself. It's not selfish. It's necessary. It's needed for your own growth and your own transformation and ascension. None of that is going to happen if you don't take the time to focus on yourself. And don't be afraid to look at the parts of you that actually hurt, okay? The parts of you that are imbalanced. Because you're going to just find yourself continuously going through cycles of situations or blocking yourself off from certain things that are ready and want to come into your life, okay? So, stay focused. Let's see what the book has to say.